Hello and welcome back to Why You're Wrong, a new show where I look at some of football's biggest narratives to separate fact from fiction and let you know what you might be missing, as well as pointing out some mistakes of my own. And on today's show, we're looking at one of this season's longest running and most confounding stories, the strange decline of Trent Alexander-Arnold. Liverpool may be firmly back in the running for the Champions League spots, with 538 giving them a 29% shot of making top 4 at the time of writing, but that hasn't stopped the Reds plunging even further into crisis. Always a tough draw in Europe, even making the quarters in 2021 when they finished third in the Prem, they were dumped out by Real Madrid with an embarrassing 6-2 scoreline in this year's round of 16, and they face a larger summer overhaul than expected, with Thiago's injuries and the declines of Van Dijk and Fabinho all proving headaches for Juergen Klopp. But while almost every Liverpool star has come in for criticism this season, one remains a unique lightning rod for discussion. 24-year-old England star, League and Champions League winner, and 3-time Team of the Season nominee, Trent Alexander-Arnold. Cards on the table, the pilot script I wrote for Why You're Wrong back in November was defending Trent, who was already catching shots at that point after Liverpool's horrible start to the season. Back then, 12 games in, Liverpool were 9th and had conceded 15 goals, and Alexander-Arnold was largely the scapegoat, thanks to his admittedly horrible body language in a defeat to Napoli and a draw with Brighton, though the rest of the season has made those results look a little less embarrassing. At the time, my angle was that this was all a little bit overblown. Not only did Trent's attacking qualities in my mind outweigh most of this stuff, but his defensive inadequacies were not as severe as they were claimed to be. The Englishman had gone from getting 33% of his touches in the final third to 29%, while 66% of his tackles were coming in the defensive third compared to half in the past. But he was actually getting dribbled past less often, winning more of his aerial duels, and completing more of his challenges, 60%, up from 45%. So, he was having to defend more and generally upping his output accordingly, and I thought he deserved a little slack. If that was true then, it isn't now, and I was definitely wrong that Trent wasn't a problem. He may be succeeding with more challenges than last year, but he's still worse than he was 2 years ago, when he won nearly 65% of his tackles attempted. Getting dribbled past less is probably more about defending deep than any improvement by Trent. The higher up the pitch you are, the more you get dribbled past as a general rule. He's losing possession more often than at any time in the last 4 years, and he contests so few aerial duels, under 1 a game, that even a climb from 54% success to 62% ultimately doesn't really matter much. And this is all without getting into Liverpool's meek exit from the Champions League, Trent failing with all 6 of his attempted challenges in that 1-0 away loss to Real Madrid, or the positional problems visible in the eye test, for example in these screen caps from Sport Bible. Okay, so far so unsurprising, Trent is an issue. That's what the dominant narrative says, right? But here's where we disagree. Trent may be a problem, but he's not the problem, and neither is the defence. In fact, I bet that if you put Trent, and not last season's Trent or 2020 Trent, but the current version, in a team with a functional press from the midfield and attack, he would look like a world beater again, and every bit as good as he's been in the past. The problems surrounding the right back are more about the deficiencies of the rest of the team than they are about him, and it doesn't matter who Liverpool buy. Short of bringing in Peak, Lahm and Maldini, any solution to their situation has to start further upfield. As Jamie Carragher said recently, where he is at the moment, and I've always defended him, is that he's played for one of the best teams in the world, and when you do that, you do a lot more attacking than defending. When Liverpool drop off and aren't one of the best teams in Europe, like they have been for the last 4 years, now they're one of the pack going for the Champions League. Then you're doing more defending and less attacking. You're seeing the worst traits of Trent and not his strengths going forward. Much of the talk about Liverpool's decline focuses on the defensive personnel, and it's undeniable that they look shakier this season. They're out of position more often and more easily beaten, especially in the case of Virgil van Dijk, who, at 31, can now be rinsed for pace in a way that was impossible in the past. But the defenders are also defending much more space due to a less athletic and positionally aware midfield, and teams have more time to pick a way through because of a lack of pressure high up the field. Liverpool used to be the hardest pressing side in the Prem, breaking up opposition play every 8 passes in 2018-19, but now they do so only every 10 passes, falling to 5th in the league. They used to lead the division in winning the ball back in the final third, making 12 high turnovers a game, but now they can only produce 9.5, way back on Arsenal and Manchester City, and a whopping 12 teams have created more shots from such situations than the Reds this season, while they've only earned 1 goal from doing so. In the past, teams were terrified playing out of the back against Liverpool, knowing they could be robbed and give up a goal in seconds. Now, the threat is almost gone, so the attack is not pulling its weight, but the midfield simply can't keep up either. In 2019-20, when Liverpool won the league, their three most used midfielders, Fabinho, Wijnaldum and Henderson, made 9.6 tackles and interceptions per 90 minutes across the campaign. That's 40% of the team's total. This year, as a consequence of Thiago's fitness problems, it's Harvey Elliott joining Fabinho and Henderson in the most common lineup, and they only produce 8 tackles and interceptions combined, 33% of the Reds' overall tally. That means more defending for the back line, which means more opportunity for mistakes, which means more scrutiny, more anxiety, and even more mistakes. Klopp knew this was an issue. He tried to bring in Aurelien Tchouameni in the summer, and every sports section currently is full of gossip about the coach's interest in Jude Bellingham, another energetic and defensively astute midfielder. And any claim that Trent could be replaced ignores the fact that everything Liverpool do still runs through him. He leads the team in chances created, he's second to Fabinho for touches, and he only trails De Bruyne and Odegaard for passes into the penalty area across the Premier League. Swapping him out would be treating a symptom of the disease and create new problems for the manager to solve. Trent may be dysfunctional right now, but he's not the source of Liverpool's dysfunction as a side, and rather than criticising him for defending badly, it might be better to consider whether a system which asks him to defend tricky wide men so often is a good one in the first place. As usual, it's simpler to blame one player for a team's struggles than to examine the deeper reasons things might be going awry. So that's our show for this week. Thank you for watching, and hit us up with your suggestions of other things I got wrong, as well as your most treasured football opinions, and they might make a future episode of the show. Get your entries in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.